Rigs on Rigs.
Although the NES is my favorite game system of all time, the Super Nintendo is probably the best game system of all time. Let's start with the heavy machinery right when we start recording. That's perfect. God. Never fails. And although there are several Nintendo games that were also on Super Nintendo, I want to cover 5 games in this video that I think if they would have ported those to the NES, they would have played just as well, they would have been just as great. Number 5, I want to talk about Zoop. Now, Zoop was a quirky puzzle game with attitude, I guess. I don't know, it just uses like these fun shapes and colors and everything. Kind of simplistic gameplay. I played it mostly on the Super Nintendo. Now, the thing with Zoop is when it first came out, it was available on like 10 consoles or something like that. It was on almost everything except the NES. And I think it would have been great as an NES game. Kind of an interesting concept. You have to you use your little arrow in your playing field, and when you grab one of the pieces, you turn into that color. And when you're that color, you can eliminate the other colors when you hit them. But if there's another color on the backside, then you turn into that color, and then you use that new color to eliminate the other pieces. And it's coming out for you from up, down, left, and right. You just gotta clear off the space as quickly as you can. Again, I played this mostly on Super Nintendo. I was a fan of it. It could have been a great Nintendo game as well. I'm surprised no one's even done like a homebrew version of it or something. I mean, it's really fun, I think. Number 4 is Goof Troop. This would have been great as part of that Disney afternoon lineup that they had. We had DuckTales, we had Rescue Rangers, we had Tailspin, which is a terrible game, but we could have had Goof Troop, and this one plays differently, but I think they could have pulled this off on the NES. Goof Troop is legit probably in my top 10 favorite Super Nintendo games of all time in the first place. And it's just kind of simplistic in nature. You walk around, you can pick up things and throw them, Zelda style, and you can pick up these other items too, but you can only carry 2 items at a time, so you have to pick and choose which ones you need the most. You probably always want the grappling hook, but then you might need the piece of the bridge, or the bell, or something else too. And this game plays as a great 2-player game as well, like 2 players simultaneous. Someone can be Goofy, someone can be Max. Both of them don't have any special abilities that the other one doesn't have. It's all just for cosmetics. But still, super fun game. It has nothing to do with the cartoon, it seems like. Because like you're on a pirate island. What is this? This isn't like you're on your suburb neighborhood or whatever from the cartoon. But it's still a super fun game. So Goof Troop, I think we could have seen a version of this on the NES, and I think it would have played very well. Number 3, the Lost Vikings. First of all, this music. And fun gameplay, kind of a puzzle platformer kind of. You have your 3 Vikings, and each one can do an ability that the other ones can't. One of them can jump super far, one of them can attack with a sword or bow and arrow, and then the other one has a shield that can either protect you from other enemies, like like lasers shooting at you. I know Vikings lasers, that's the whole idea, is like you're kind of in like the future or something on this spaceship or something. And the shield, you can also carry it above your head so other people can jump onto it and then onto something else. Fun game, The Lost Vikings. I like it quite a bit, and I think we could have seen this pulled off pretty well on the NES. I'm pretty sure we could have. Now, it wouldn't have had the great music that the Super Nintendo version has. It wouldn't have had the bright colors that the Super Nintendo version has, but I think it would have done very well. I think it would have been pretty true to the game itself, and I think it would have worked pretty well. Number 2 is Spankys Quest, another puzzle platformer for the Super Nintendo. I'm a big fan of this game. It was one of the first games I rented back in the day. And even though it looked cartoony, it looked, cutesy, whatever, it's actually a lot of fun. If you're not familiar with Spankys Quest, you're a monkey and you have to collect all the keys in each room. There's tons of rooms in this game. The game just keeps going and going. Your tech is you create these little, bubbles, and then however many times you pop it on your head, and when you pop the bubble, it turns into a different kind of, sports ball that will have a different ability. Like, one of them can, the baseball just hits, the basketball kind of floats out. There's like a soccer ball that kind of, explodes a little bit to get things around the area too. These enemies are carrying the keys for the most part, so you have to defeat them to get the key, or you can also, use your bubble to capture the key and bring it back to you. A lot of rooms, a lot of puzzles, and I know this would have worked for the NES because they made a Game Boy version of Spankys Quest. Now, the Game Boy version is not exactly like the Super Nintendo version. This one features the same idea where you bounce the ball and then, pop the thing or whatever, but different. You have to hold your button down, and then when it bounces off your head, that's when it turns into your attack power or something. So even if they brought the Game Boy version to the NES, I think it would have been okay. I think it would have sold pretty well. I mean, with the right marketing and a spot Nintendo Power, every game that did that sold really well. Spankys Quest, would have loved to have seen this on the NES. And before I get to my number 1 game, let's hear from someone who knows all about Super Nintendo. Or should we say SNES?
That's drunk?
Hey, thanks John for having me on. I really appreciate it. And when you asked me about SNES games that could work on the NES, my first thought was seeing Mario RPG done in the style of Zelda 2. Okay, that kind of already exists in a way with the Paper Mario series, but still, it would work really well in every category, like visiting villages via an overworld map and talking to NPCs would pretty much be the same. And of course, the side-scrolling action stuff would work pretty well too. Just let Mario use a mallet in place of Link's sword. Heck, you could even give Mario his own version of the downward sword thrust, where he would hop on enemies with the mallet the way Scrooge McDuck would bounce on his cane. Yeah, I know Mario doesn't really need that because, jumping on enemies is kind of his thing, but still, for the purpose of the game, it would be kind of cool. For switching characters in the action phases, you could use the same system that the Ninja Turtles game did, with each character having their own weapon and their own health bar. But hey, if you wanted to stick with the turn-based combat, that would work too. Maybe save that for boss battles or something. You could keep the story just as it is, and if nothing else, it would be really cool to see an 8-bit version of Geno. And thanks for having me on, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
My number one pick, believe it or not, I want to give it up to Kablooey, of all games. Now, I suck at this game, but I still come back to it, right? It's one of those kind of games. I suck at this game, I think I know what I'm doing, and it turns out every time I play this game, I don't. I know what's going on, kind of. You have to detonate these bombs and then move onto a platform so you don't blow up with the rest of the bombs. Yeah, you have to, detonate a bomb and then move to another platform so, the bombs don't disintegrate the other platforms around you so you can defuse the other bombs too. It was actually the first import I ever played. A friend of mine got this in Japan somehow, Bomboozled, and he modified it so it played in a Super Nintendo. And I was like, oh, this is what Japanese games look like? Cool. And then of course when it came out for the Super Nintendo, I was like, I remember this game. Now even the angle that everything is in, it could have been kind of like a Solstice, where it has that kind of quarter angle, or even if it's just like overhead top view, which you can play that version in the import version. I don't know why you can't do it in the Kablooey version. But even if it was just like a top view looking down, directly down, and then detonating the bombs, the puzzle element's still there. The fun's still there, I think. I mean, I'd still suck at it, but this was one game I'm sure we could have seen for the NES. Make sure you watch more underrated Super Nintendo games. I got this video right here for you, and I also ranked every LJN game for the Super Nintendo. So want to check those out? I would appreciate it, and we will see you very, very soon.